What's going on, everybody? Happy Tuesday. Jeff Kassouf here with This Week in Women's Soccer. Definitely excited to bring you this week's show. Got a couple of very good guests. Julie Foudy will be joining us, along with Ali Riley. You might have most recently seen Ali playing for New Zealand against the U.S. Women's National Team in a 2-1 loss, a very late loss, which might be known as the heroic Alex Morgan performance. And we'll see if Ali and the rest of New Zealand thought that one goal actually went in. And then Julie Foudy will be joining us. She's been following the U.S. women around a bit. She was up in Vancouver, and obviously she's keeping tabs on them as the Olympics approach. So she'll be joining us to talk about that, talk about some of the problems in defense for the U.S., and then sort of get her take on women's professional soccer and even sort of the lowercase WPS, women's professional soccer, looking beyond the league of just what is the future of the sport professionally in this country. So definitely good to get her insight on that because she's been through it with WUSA as a player, and she's watched it happen with WPS. So two very exciting guests, and we'll pretty much get right to them because there's not a whole lot happening in the world right now of women's soccer domestically. The teams have been added, and I don't know that we're stopping at 8, but it sounded that way initially. We have 8 teams in the WPSL Elite League now. The initial ones of Western New York Flash, Boston Breakers, FC Indiana, and Chicago Red Stars. And since we last chatted with you last week, joining them is formerly Boston Aztecs, now Aztec MA, staying in Massachusetts there. Also in Massachusetts, the New England Mutiny. Chesapeake Charge joined from the WPSL, moving up to the Elite League. And the Philadelphia Fever has formed as basically a new team. They're going to use college-only players, college-eligible only, so they'll be fully amateur. And obviously we know at least Boston, Western New York, I haven't really confirmed anything beyond that, that those two teams will be professional. And we know, I think overshadowed last week was Leslie Osborne re-signing with Boston, which is a huge component for them because, at least very early here with not having much answer, not having many answers on who will be in this league. As of right now, players who are signed, I think that Leslie Osborne is the best player in the WPSL Elite League. So that's huge for Boston. It's obviously great to have their captain back. So that's pretty big news there. Otherwise, to me, you basically, and we'll see how these teams shake out. I know the New England Mutiny are talking about trying to do something where they can compete with these other teams of primarily Boston and Western New York, who I think are probably the front runners. I know FC Indiana is going to put something out that's a good product, and Chicago will be looking to do the same. But in general, early on, it looks very much like basically a 2-tiered league of just there's 8 teams, and it seems like there's 4 that really will kind of run away with things and sort of cause this split halfway through the table, and the other 4 will just kind of be whatever they are. You're looking at college players. I don't know. The concerning part about this league for me is definitely maybe twofold of level of competition. Is it going to be something where Western New York and Boston and maybe Chicago FC Indiana are they're going to play each other one week, get a really good game, and then they've got 2-3 weeks of just play their reserves and still win 6-0 or something, because we don't know what the quality is going to be like. And I don't know that you can necessarily be a Chesapeake Charge or, we'll see. New England Mutiny carries a name in WPSL, but not comparatively to a Boston Breakers. Can you be one of these teams and attract a top-level player and convince them that it's going to be a great training environment, that it's going to be a place that you want to be, and that's going to be a place that can beat a Breakers or a Flash and really help develop a career, at least for a year, which is basically the purpose of this league starting right now instead of next year. So that's probably my main on-the-field concern. I hope it's wrong, because that would certainly be it wouldn't be as entertaining or interesting, and it wouldn't be good for the development of players to see sort of a split halfway through the table. But it very well could happen. A little bit too early to judge, but it just, as these teams have been added, it really seems like you've got your Breakers, you've got your Flash, Red Stars, FC Indiana in that group, and then you've got, down here, at least name recognition. So we'll see. A lot to be done there, and maybe we'll all be wrong, and the Fever are getting some of the best college players in the country, and the Charge, and New England Mutiny, and Aztec can pick some players up. I don't know. Hopefully it works out. But last time we had a special episode with Amy Carnell, general manager of the Seattle Sounders. If you didn't check that out, be sure to do that at nasn.tv/TWIWS for This Week in Women's Soccer. And you can check out that episode with Amy Carnell. A lot of great stuff from her, talking about the future of the Seattle Sounders women. They have some big plans. I thought she was very sharp. She's got some good ideas, and at least one of them will be, the connection to the Sounders men. So we'll see how that goes for the Seattle Sounders women. So obviously, Sydney Leroux and Hope Solo talking, signing there with Seattle, and we'll see. I think we'll see some migration to the W League for a lot of these players. We'll see. So the joining us next will be Julie Foudy, who has plenty to say, and we're very excited for that. And after that, we've got Allie Riley on the phone. She's doing a little bit of traveling, I think, so we'll bring her on. So very excited for this episode. Stick with us after the break. Thanks for staying with us, folks. I'm Jeff Kassouf, now joined by the one and only Julie Foudy. Julie, thanks for coming on today.
My pleasure, Jeff. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Great.
Well, last time we tried chatting with Julie. She was on the road. We had a little bit of technical difficulties, so we got her back. Happy to have her back. And now
not driving this time, so it's much safer.
Yes, much safer. Don't talk and drive, folks. But Julie, it's a little old now, but you were in Vancouver. Just wanted to get your sort of quick thoughts of taking the, what's transpired over the past couple of weeks with the U.S. Women's National Team up in Vancouver, and then New Zealand. I don't know if you were in Dallas, were you?
I was not, no.
Okay. But just kind of, if we can get your thoughts sort of on those few games that we've seen recently.
Well, Vancouver was impressive by the U.S. I think I forget how many goals for. 38 was the final tally, 37, and 0 against. I mean, it was quite a dominating performance. And it just looked like, to me, it was the most fun they'd been having, too, which is always something we talk about with that team when we were playing, and this current team is, there was joy back in it. It seemed to me they were definitely enjoying it more. So I love that. I love to see that, and great that they qualified. Bummer that the very next day you get bad news about the league folding.
Right.
And especially given the interest right now. What did they have? 25,000 in Dallas for them, and great crowd. So that's just breaks your heart when you see that, because everyone obviously wants a league to survive. Yeah,
I was surprised about the Dallas crowd, over 20,000 there. I mean, that kind of seemed to come out of nowhere a little bit. But what do you think about that game? I mean, obviously took 2 late goals from Alex Morgan, and then from what we heard, it was a draw a couple days later in a closed-door scrimmage between those two teams. New Zealand's looking a lot better, I'd say, at the very least.
Yeah, and I thought actually New Zealand looked good at the World Cup, and that's so encouraging, because you see teams now that, one of the, I think the great things that came out of that Women's World Cup this past summer, besides, new World Cup winner in Japan, is that you have teams emerging that weren't strong before. You know, the Frances of the world, Japan, of course. New Zealand looked good. Mexico's getting better. So I think that's all a very encouraging sign. Mm-hmm. But I'm glad that Pia went back to, you know, Abby and Alex up top playing together, because I think that's a dangerous duo for sure. So, and then she even switched into another formation. It sounds like she went into a 3-4-3 as well. So she's continuing to tinker, which I like now.
Yeah, I thought that combination up top, I mean, obviously that one goal was a direct benefit of that, a flick-on header from Abby to Morgan for the finish. So, I mean, it seems to be a nice combination of speed and sort of, you know, a target player out of Abby.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, she just stretches the game for him so much. I mean, anyone with pace is going to do that for you. But then, you know, on top of her having that pace, she's such a smooth finisher in front of goal. She's just got a very nice touch, and so I think that takes a little bit of pressure off Abby as well and opens things up for her. So I like it. I like it a lot. I mean, and you know, Pia has got a lot of options right now as well, which is fun to see for the women. This is about as deep a team as I've ever seen.
Yeah. And on the subject of Alex Morgan, I mean, huge couple weeks for her on and off the field, you know, scoring those 2 goals. And I think that a lot of people really took some notice. And then obviously she was in Sports Illustrated swimsuit issue. Is there, have you seen kind of that much media blitz in such a short time span since, you know, I mean, it's been a while, I would say, for women's soccer.
Since Brandy got naked? No, it's great. I mean, I think it's awesome that they're getting the attention from Hope being on Dancing with the Stars, and I just think as much as you can keep that momentum rolling, you know, then post World Cup, because that's always the challenge. It's like you have this great interest, enthusiasm around World Cup years and Olympic years, and then the challenge is, of course, how do you carry that momentum on in those off years? So I think, you know, obviously with the Olympics just being around the corner from the World Cup, that's big for them. But whether they can then translate that into a league or something that's, you know, on a more consistent basis is the challenge, which is a totally different animal, as we know.
Yeah, and I definitely, I mean, I want to get your thoughts on that real quick still on the national team front. We got to talk about it last time, and it got cut out a little bit, but the back four for Pia is sort of a work in progress. I know that we both like Kelly O'Hara there, but it seems to be sort of a, you know, there's really no clear direction as of yet. Who's kind of your ideal back four for the U.S. women's national team?
Well, losing Allie Krieger hurt tons, so because already they weren't very deep at the wide outside back position. So my ideal back four probably would be Kelly O'Hara, Sauerbrunn, Rampone, and LePelbit. Although I don't even think LePelbit is a true left back, of course. I mean, she's a center back that they're pushing to the left side. So I just think there's got to be more depth. They have so much depth at center back, right? And there's got to be more players coming through the system that are outside back potentials. I am a huge proponent of what they're doing with Kelly O'Hara, which is what we did with Brandy Chastain and Joy Fawcett, where you take a attacking-minded person who's a forward or a midfielder and you make them an outside back, because then they can go both ways, offensively and defensively. But, you know, I look at like a, and I'm not just saying this because she's a fellow Card, but like a Cami Levine, Levin, who I think is, you know, is that type of player. She can play on any of the three lines. She's played outside back very well for Stanford. Doesn't have tremendous size, but is smart and good. So I think she's going to get some looks, hopefully, at the senior level.
Yeah, I agree. I thought she looked, you know, I didn't see her as much as I'm sure you did being out that way. But, I mean, in the College Cup in particular, I thought that she was great. And I was looking forward to seeing her in WPS. But yeah,
I know. And she's so versatile, too. You know, it reminds me of like a Joy in that, you know, when Stanford was down or needed a goal, I don't know if they were ever down actually, when they needed a goal, they would shove her into the central midfield position or up front or even out wide, and all of a sudden she would start making things happen offensively as well. So I always like that type of player that you can, that you can get some mobility out of.
Yeah. One more sort of quick question on the U.S. team before we get your thoughts on sort of the slightly sad state of affairs on the pro level. This team really seems to be buying into what Pia Sundhage is doing, even when the public and fans seem to be not necessarily doing that. I know she's had her critics on at least social media and such. Is this the happiest that you've ever seen this team, or at least in a very long time?
Yes, for sure. I mean, you could see it in Vancouver.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're laughing, they're having fun, they're enjoying the popularity of this team and having fun with it, and it's nice to see because, not too long ago, that was a different story, a few years back. I think Pia has done a wonderful job of setting the tone that way and just saying, let's enjoy it,
Mm-hmm.
First and foremost. And that's, as any successful team knows, that's when you're successful, if you're enjoying it, if you're out there and you're having fun, and of course there's a balance.
Mm-hmm.
But I look back on my years with the national team, that was always the one common theme. There was laughter, we were having a blast, and so it's nice to see them so loose and really
Right.
soaking it in.
Right. And obviously, as we've kind of alluded to, a couple days, well, actually a day after that they won that CONCACAF Olympic qualifying tournament, news breaks about WPS. It's a little bit sort of set in now. You've seen this with a couple leagues now. I mean, is there a model that works? What are your thoughts on this failing again?
Yeah, I just think it's tough. You can't just say, oh well, I can't believe it doesn't make it. We've got millions of kids playing.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, we've got millions of kids playing, but it's not transferring to the next level. And women and men, I just think, consume sports differently. And for us to think, okay, we can't create a model based on 10,000, 20,000 in a game per game. It's just so hard to do on a week in and week out basis. But I do think if you created a model that controlled player salaries, because there was a lot of off-the-cap money spent, which we saw with the WPS, and there were agents involved. That was different from the WSA, but you created a fair environment for them, and you had owners maybe linked with an MLS or an infrastructure that has something in place already. I mean, MLS would be good because compared to what they were when we started the WSA, what was that, 10, 12 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
They now have built their stadiums and they have a good fan base and they've turned that corner, and now they can maybe pick their heads up and start thinking about other things. I think before they were just understandably trying to figure out their men's team.
Right.
So to take on a different entity would have been hard. So, and then you can share infrastructure, you can share stadiums. So maybe that's what the new model looks like, because you need owners that, as we know, can endure for more than 3 years of losses and
Mm-hmm.
have the ability in the pockets, most importantly, to say, okay, I understand this is going to be a long-term thing, and we're going to lose for quite a while.
Yeah.
But I do think there's a corner we're going to reach, and we're going to be able to turn it. But I still don't think it's going to be the same as the men. We're not going to be NFL or NBA. It's got to be, and I just don't think women consume that way. But having said that, I still think there's a market for it, as we've seen.
Yeah.
With post World Cup success.
Mm. Do you think that, there's a lot of things out there now with the WPSL starting up this new league in wake of the news about WPS. There's WPS still trying to make the comeback a year from now. There's W League with some teams sort of forging forward and talks of a pro model for 2013. Is the future something where maybe, this is something where teams are sort of more to the semi-pro level where maybe players need to be working outside of soccer? I know that that's something that doesn't sit well with a lot of players in terms of making sure that it's fully professional. Is that something that maybe sort of bridges the gap, do you think?
I think it could bridge the gap, but I don't think it's the ultimate answer. I mean, you can't train people to the level and standard you want when they're working 9-to-5 jobs. and unable to to train and compete. It's tough, but it may be a bridge in the interim. But and this isn't just a problem that's solely for women's sports. I mean, I was just interviewing one of the Olympic water polo players, Peter Hudnut, who is training with the U.S. team right now, and he was saying, look, we would love a league in this country, but we can't make it sustainable, Look at, some of the lacrosse leagues, some of the other sports. So it's tough. It's not just tough for women. It's tough for men's minor sports as well. But I think if you want to really develop players and create a larger base, semi-pro is nice, but I just don't think you're developing them as much as you could, obviously.
Yeah. Is it fair to say, I mean, the players, some that we've sort of alluded to, I mean, we talked about a Cami Levin. I mean, I can think of so many sort of on-the-cusp national teamers or just really good WPS players. Is it fair to say that they're probably the most hurt by this, whereas maybe, national team players still have that training at the international level?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I mean, because you just look at some of the national teamers there right now. Shannon Box, she only got her chance at the national team level because of the league. And Abby Wambach, even, you could make that argument. She'd been cut 2 times from the national team, and it wasn't until she started thumping in goals with the Washington Freedom that she got another look. So who knows, if she would even gotten a look. So, yeah, it's those ones that are just outside that pool of 30 players that start to think, well, okay, maybe it was a pipe dream to think I could play in Olympics or a World Cup, and I probably should go get a job. And then they stop training, and then you lose them.
Yeah, I mean, I can think of, at least off the top of my head, a Becky Sauerbrunn, Lori Lindsay, Amy LaPelbit of sort of direct WPS beneficiaries.
Yeah, exactly.
So talking about the semi-pro stuff that we were just talking about, Seattle Sounders made some waves last week, signed Hope Solo and Sydney LaRue. We talked with their general manager, Amy Carnell, and she expects them to be around for about 4 league games maybe and a few exhibitions. So it might not be a full season or really a huge impact on that team. But in terms of marketing and sort of, especially with what we talked about with her, with trying to connect to the men's side a little bit more because the Sounders are having so much success in MLS. Were you surprised by that a little bit? I know that I was.
Yeah, I was surprised by it, but I was happy that they did it. Sunil has said the U.S. Federation will supplement their residency, but you have the ability to play for someone and promote this league, and they're flexible, which is what the national teamers want. The ability to come in and out. So I think it's great. I think it's great because immediately it got a lot of play, and you have Hope Solo, who obviously is so well known, and then Sydney LaRue, who is a great story. People may not know as much about her, but a real, promising young star that needs the games. So I think it's great.
Yeah. So I mean, I think it'll be interesting to see kind of how that affects that market, because I mean, I would imagine with a 5,000 seat stadium, at least for those games that those two are there, I would hope that that's a sellout. And Seattle's soccer crazy, so.
Yeah, I know the Northwest in general. I mean, I was at the Portland game, and the Timbers Army, they're just awesome. It's like you're in the middle of Europe, when you sit in that game. Yeah,
I have to get out there at some point for sure. All right, so it's Tuesday now. We want to talk to you about real quick. Can fans still vote for Choose to Matter on the last day on Tuesday?
Yes. Well,
okay.
It's yes, they can.
Okay.
They can. Today, I think it is open until midnight.
Okay, perfect. So, can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, because my goal is to get to 50,000, and we're at like 45. So, anything they can do. It's this really cool thing we do with our leadership academies. We've always had the kids do these community service projects, so they obviously come and play soccer, but I've always felt the beauty of soccer is you create the foundation for who you are, and you find your voice and your confidence and all these other wonderful aspects of sports.
Mm-hmm.
But so we have them actually go back to their communities and start some type of community service project, and we've never really tracked them in terms of we've posted them online, but we finally got a contest going thanks to McDonald's where they're sending the winning project, so the one with the most votes, to the Olympics.
Mm-hmm.
To act as a youth leader. And so if people go online, they can read about 70-plus projects. They're awesome. And they're just really cool. These kids came up with them themselves. They've implemented them in their communities. And you vote for your favorite one. It's super simple. It takes, it just takes a little bit to vote. But most importantly, you get to read about all the awesome work these girls are doing, which is so neat.
Yeah. Is that, so I see that there's 4 categories. Is it one from each, or is it the...
Yeah, you can vote for one from each category. So we have our 3 locations, and then we've been partners with this great nonprofit called Girl Talk, which is all about high school age girls helping younger girls and mentoring them. So very similar to our leadership academies, but they do it at the school level.
Mm-hmm. So, but all 4 of those winners then go to London, or the top?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Perfect.
All 4 of them. So you can vote for 4. You can only vote once for each category, but so we've had like 45,000 people vote so far. Our goal is to get to 50, and it closes tomorrow is the last day, and then we'll calculate all the votes, and they'll go over for the Olympics, which is really neat. And I'm going over there for ESPN already, so I'll be able to hang out with them while I'm over there. Yeah.
Very lucky. Yeah, I would love to be one of them. They're pretty lucky to get to London. So.
I know. And it's so cool because they get they get to go to the events, they get to meet athletes. They're doing all this really neat behind-the-scenes stuff. Yeah. I'm like, I want to get in on this tour.
Yeah, I agree. That'd be pretty awesome. Well, that sounds like a great initiative. So you can check that out at juliefoudyleadership.com or more directly, contest.juliefoudyleadership.com. So,
and thanks for supporting it, Jeff. I know you
no problem.
People to vote, and for all you've been doing, more importantly with women's soccer and covering it and talking about it. It's huge, and it's been a big help for me being on the media side to be able to read the stuff you've been writing and talking about.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. It's definitely been fun to. You get to do the fun stuff, though, Julie. You're out at the World Cup and that, so that's what I know.
I can't believe I actually call it a job. It's kind of like the old playing days. I'm like, we get paid to do this? This is ridiculous.
Yeah. You like being on the media side now?
I do, and especially because I obviously love the soccer and I get to cover all that, but I'm doing a lot of other things. Like I'm doing, all these features with Olympians leading into the Olympics. I probably will do about 20. Mm-hmm. I get to do a lot of features for soccer. We're going to shoot Shannon Box in March and Kai Kamara for Sporting KC, and we'll do some of the men's national team. So I like all that. I like the balance. I'm hosting. It's good. It's a good challenge.
Yeah.
Keeps me on my toes.
That sounds fun for sure. Well, I'm glad you're enjoying that. Julie, thanks for joining us again. I really appreciate it.
No problem.
And we'll talk to you soon. Thanks for coming on, Julie.
All right. Thanks, Jeff.
All right. Well, thanks for staying with us. We just had Julie Foudy on, and now we are joined by Ali Riley, defender for New Zealand and formerly of a couple of WPS clubs. Ali, how you doing today?
Hi, I'm great. Thank you. Thanks for having me on.
No, absolutely. It's our pleasure. So New Zealand, I think a lot of people maybe, a little bit surprised, I guess, some American folks anyway. A couple of pretty good results for New Zealand against the U.S. women's national team. Unfortunate late loss there in the game that people were able to watch, and then a closed-door draw. What did you guys take from those two games?
It was a really, really good experience for us. We haven't played together since our last game of the World Cup, which I believe was July 5th. So it had been a long time, and obviously we're the underdogs going in, so we were using it as a measure and challenge to see where we are and where we need to be for the qualifiers, but more importantly for the Olympics. So we basically kind of went in there with nothing to lose, but of course we spent what few days we had in Texas before the game studying the U.S. and we saw them play in the World Cup. But I think for us it was really good to have that a good game against them, and I think there were times when we dominated and we were able to match up with them physically, and I think it just took kind of the edge off. And I think we were lucky that we had Japan in our group in the World Cup, and we had done well against them too, and they obviously went on to win it. So I think the team has just gained some confidence from that result, and I still believe that the first goal didn't cross the line, and I think there may even be some U.S. players that agree with me. It was easier to see on the replay on the big screen. But so yeah, we're really positive. We know we have a lot of things to work on. We didn't play our best in-possession soccer by any means. We weren't super creative, but defensively, I think as a back four, we're feeling pretty good about our performance, and we're really excited to go into Cyprus at the end of the month.
Mm-hmm. Well, I was going to ask you that, and you answered it for me. So it seemed like a lot of people reacted pretty strongly that they didn't think that ball went in.
Yeah, it was pretty, I think something happened with the lineswoman, and we kind of tried to argue with the center ref, but she didn't, once the call is made, it's made. And I think some of my friends said on the live stream you couldn't really get a good angle, but on the replay at the game it was pretty obvious. Our goalie was really mad. But, I mean, they really put the heat on at the end, and I think Alex Morgan had a great game, and, it's hard to play against players whom you are teammates with, and obviously who I was hoping to be teammates with again this coming month. So, but it was really good, and it was good to see. We're all friends with those girls, and to see have Kelly O'Hara out there, it was really fun. It was definitely a good time.
Mm-hmm. And I think Alex Morgan did have a great game. Obviously, a lot of people also pointing to you as being one of, if not the best player on the field that day. I know you've been doing a lot of sort of training in the off season. Can you talk about just kind of what these past few months have been like with you, especially with no WPS on the horizon now?
Yeah, I mean, it's just been a lot of individual work, which is pretty tedious by the end of 5 months of doing it. But I'm really lucky to have a great coach in LA, and a lot of the girls were actually around. I was training with Whitney Engen when she wasn't in camp, Bianca D'Agostino, Tina DiMartino, Kristen Press. So there were a lot of people around in the same situation, so it was really good to have other girls to work with. And then obviously we kind of all went through the WPS folding together, and had each other there to kind of bounce ideas off of and use each other as a support system. So it was definitely a long off season, which is now even longer. But yeah, I mean, there's unfortunately not too many opportunities just with the timing abroad, but I'm still keeping my options open and hoping that either the WPS comes back. I know a lot of the teams are working hard to kind of keep their operations going and do the WPSL Elite. So we'll see what happens.
Now, New Zealand obviously needs to get through Olympic qualifying to get to the Olympics, but I think some of us have kind of sort of made that a foregone conclusion. I know that's not the mindset of the team, but just looking towards the Olympics, I mean, is that what is the goal there? I know that we talked a little bit before the World Cup, and I think that sort of looking at it from the outside, it seems like you guys accomplished some things that you wanted to, and sort of showing the world that you are a team that can compete with all these other high-powered squads. I mean, what's the goal in sort of a smaller tournament, if you will, of the Olympics?
So, I mean, to be completely honest, we didn't reach our goals at the World Cup. We wanted to get out of the group stage, and obviously we were really excited about that win, and the times we ended on a high note, felt like we had gotten something, but we want to win games. We don't want to tie. We don't want to obviously lose. So I think the same goal is for the Olympics. We need to get out of that group stage, and it is a better opportunity given that there's 12 teams and the top 2 third-place teams from each group go through. So that's really what we're looking for, and that's why the result against the U.S. was so good, because the way the draw goes, we might not get a U.S., we might not get a top team. We definitely have the opportunity to beat some teams, and not saying that we can't beat those top teams, but just it all kind of depends on how the draw goes. But I think we're feeling pretty confident right now, and I think in Cyprus we have an opportunity to keep building that confidence because we got a group of with none of the Tier 1 teams in it. So, it's just still building and working on things. But, we want to win games for sure. We're not happy with just getting 1 point out of a tournament anymore.
And I mean, you mentioned the Cyprus Cup. At least, a small glimpse of a team you might see in London. Can you talk about just sort of the three teams there in the group of South Africa, of Northern Ireland, and South Korea?
Yeah, I think the good thing about Cyprus and playing these kind of teams is you have such a variety of the different styles, and you kind of get all the different regions there. And you also get the opportunity to see all the other teams, the Canadas and the England, France, what have you. So I think for us, we had a really disappointing result in Cyprus last year. We were kind of experimenting with things before the World Cup. So right now we're really going to basically play as hard as we can, play our best players, and try to dominate those teams and kind of show that we don't necessarily belong in like the Tier 3 categorization that we will remain in for a while since we're, 24, I think, in the world. But I think, we've played South Korea before. The other two we haven't, but I think playing South Africa will be really good. So, yeah, I think it'll be really fun. But we're really looking to win that group, to dominate that group, which by no means will be easy, but that's the kind of mindset we need to have going into it.
And you probably, I would imagine, I think that looking at this Cyprus Cup, it seems to be maybe the strongest ever. I mean, there's a lot of good teams, so you win that group and get a pretty good matchup for finals day.
Yeah, I think so. I'm not really sure how it works since I know with the other groups, I'm not sure who we would play then if we win that group, but hopefully, that's what you're saying. So, but it will be good to kind of scout through and see what the other groups are doing and how those teams are looking, because obviously they'll be in the Olympics.
And WPS real quick, it's set in a little bit, or I guess, has it set in the news?
I think by now it has. I think, there was that time when I think it was November, when they were saying, was it going to be suspended? They just needed to find another team, or would the appeal go through and all this stuff. And I think all of that was a little, harder to deal with than now, just knowing that it's done, at least for this year, and it's about moving forward and not kind of hoping that something's going to come through, because it's pretty much over with, at least until 2013. So I think it really has kind of settled in, and right now it's just about looking what opportunities there are, because I want to be, playing the best soccer I can be in time for late July. So, I think it's just kind of keeping nose to the grind and finding the best team, the best training over the next couple of months. So it's still really disappointing, and training, with Whitney Engen, and, I keep in touch with Ashlyn Harris and so many of my teammates. I think it's just sad more than anything, but there's not that kind of unknown wondering if it's going to come back and all that tension. It's just sad now because we love seeing teammates, and we're really looking forward to our experience in Buffalo again. So. Yeah.
Well, I wanted to ask you real quick before we let you go. WPSL Elite, you mentioned. There's obviously still the W League. Couple big signings for Seattle there, Hope Solo and Sydney LaRue.
Yeah.
And then obviously, Pally, which you've had, you have your experience with, has always kind of brought in some very good players. Could there be sort of that trend from people you're talking to of maybe, international windows pretty much closed? Is W League and WPSL the real options here?
Yeah, I think, I have a lot of respect for many of the coaches in those leagues, and there's great players playing, at least in the past, and obviously with the recent signings, there'll be great players on every team. So I think it is a really appealing option, especially for some of us who have international duty and can come and play games, have good trainings, have a little more freedom and a little more time to rest, and it's not as rigorous as the WPS. So I think it is really appealing. So it's definitely something I'm still keeping in mind, but it is hard with the timing, just in terms of it doesn't start until May and then it finishes, when the Olympics could still be going on, I think. So I'm not sure with how the timing will work out, but I definitely think it'll be all those leagues. I guess there's still WPSL, there's WPSL Elite, and then the W League. Is that?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I mean, I think all of them will have really good teams, and it'll be great competition. So I think that could be exciting, and if it is successful, that could, kind of maybe the WPS could take something from that organization and that business model and kind of segue that into 2013. So hopefully it'll do really well. I know it'll be hard to get some international players from other countries, but yeah, we'll see. It's definitely an option. I think there's some good players thinking about signing for all of those leagues.
All right. Sounds good. Well, Allie Riley, thank you for joining us. I know you're busy right now, but thanks for taking the time to join us on This Week in Women's Soccer.
No problem. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you again to Allie Riley there, and of course Julie Foudy as well earlier on the show. Very, very good to kind of get some of their insight, particularly Allie's with, in terms of WPS of what to do now. What the players are doing. Sounds like the options are open. She seems to think that we will see some more folks in WPSL Elite, even in WPSL and in the W League. So that'll be good for those leagues of just kind of high-level soccer. And then Julie Foudy, of course, thank you to her for joining us, talking a little WPS, talking U.S. Women's National Team. Certainly good to sort of get her perspective with the experience she has with not only the national team, but WPS and WUSA. So it's been a couple times around for her seeing this happen. So hopefully, I don't know. To me, it seems like from the outside that folks like Julie Foudy and plenty of others who've been through it with WUSA and maybe had more of an inside view of WPS as well, could be very helpful with sort of sorting out the professional level in this country. Obviously, the owners of teams and potential owners of teams are going to be the ones who can really they're going to have to fork the bill, so they're going to have to be involved as well. But it might be good to bring in folks like Julie and some others to really kind of give some insight into these things. So thanks again to Allie and Julie, and for this week, that's about it for us. So that's it for me, Jeff Kassouf. You can check me out on equalizersoccer.com, where I do want to give a quick shout out to a couple of bloggers. I don't know if you guys have quite heard of them. You might have if you followed Magic Jack a bit this past year, or if you followed the W League previously. Ashley Gunning and Amanda DaCosta, over the past week in particular, putting out a lot of really great blogs, I think, with some really cool messages. I think they're applicable to 20 and 30 somethings and older, and even to your U10 travel team. So go ahead and check that out, equalizersoccer.com. Top navigation bar, you can just click player blogs. Pretty cool stuff there. So until next time, until next week, I'm Jeff Kassouf. Catch you next week.